what I did in this piece was I talked about how we talked about protein folding 30 years ago at Sun with Stanford, which was folding at home. How we talked about protein folding, and protein folding was just as insurmountable 30 years ago. Now, protein folding is we've got, um, we've got a Nobel Prize. Here are the guys who won the Nobel Prize for AlphaFold. This is my same boss, which is Eric Schmidt, admittedly, huge DARPA help here, but he kept going with the folding project from Sun at Google. It became Google DeepMind, and Dennis Asafas got the Nobel Prize last year, right? So 30 years ago, it was insurmountable. There was no way, this is before the Human Genome Project, and there was no way you could do any of these things. And here's just some of the projects that are AlphaFold 3 now, and AlphaFold was also made in the public domain. So AF3 is out there. It's working on all these different things. This is just a short list. Beyond druggable oncogene, KRAS. It's working on the malaria. It's working on neurodegeneration for anybody with muscular multiple sclerosis or Alzheimer's or any of the ALS type diseases, any neurodegenerative disease, including just the inflammation diseases. You can just see, you go down the list here with anything, antibiotics, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're just discovery after discovery. And what I did in 95 was I hitched my wagon to a star, and who knew he would win a Nobel Prize, and who knew he would be the father of the Human Genome Project. But I hitched my wagon to this star when I was working in Seattle in the early 90s with this guy who was named Leroy Hood, who was talking about systems biology. He was taking computers and modeling human systems for long-term health. And his idea was the earlier you get involved in seeing a defect, the less you have to pay when the defect materializes. It's sort of like when you're building a skyscraper and you're just a little bit off on the first floor, just a little couple inches off, or even a quarter of an inch off. That if you build on that defect, by the time you get to the top, you have to tear the building down, right? And that's why engineers look with theodolites as they're building a building to make sure they're absolutely square. That first floor, man, they really look at that first floor really hard. It's not so much as they're going up, but the second floor, they really look hard. 99th floor, not so much, because they know that they're only going to be building, 10 more floors. But when you're at that first floor, you watch those guys and see how precision they are on square on that first floor. And that's the same thing with protein folding. If you can predict something that's not going to fold precisely correctly, you can intermediate and perturb that earlier on. You can tell a cancer to tell itself to die, for instance. That's still an ambition of ours. But I'm just saying, in the 30 years that I've been doing this was considered a conspiracy theory. Now there's all sorts of projects going on, and it's in the free domain. So there's Leroy Hood. You can read the whole. He's now moved on to the phenome, which is how these things end up, going from the human genome to see what actually happens through somebody's life for the phenomic effect, and then intercepting early before it becomes life-threatening. He's talking about he's working on diabetes. He's working on a lot of cancers, and there's his phenome project, and he wants 1 million volunteers, and that's why we're doing Neighborhood News and Health. That's why we do volunteer projects. And so this is the strategy: early intervention, right? It's going to take 1 million people, so I don't think we're going to have all 1 million at Neighborhood News and Health, but there it is. 30 years ago, it was considered conspiracy theory. And this is why I say, as we move things now, we're at AI now, Dr. Sun Shang investing in AI. We've got the quantum whisperer, right? And we're going to be moving these things from the AI domain into the quantum domain. And they're going to get 1,000 to 1 million times more compute. And we're going to be able to solve problems that we never solved before. But somebody has to conceive it first before people can do it, right? And that's what the Idea Factory in Michigan is all about. That's what Neighborhood News and Health is all about. We're not going to have to burn tumors anymore. This is a look into the future. After we burned 1 billion tumors, cauterized 1 billion tumors, we've cryogenically destroyed, frozen 1 billion tumors. Should we do that forever? Or should we just tell cancer to kill itself, right? So that's why we go to the conferences. Here we are at the ASCO conference. That's why I sleep on park benches. That's why we take trains seemingly from Mississippi. That's why we sleep on train stations seemingly from Mississippi, so that we can afford to do these things. They've killed all of our heroes, like Bernie Bridges and so forth and Task Force. But, so we don't have these places, but the local heroes, if you will. But we still are going there. We're still going to the latest and greatest information. We get knocked down on YouTube. And then YouTube comes back and finds out the papers just haven't been published yet. We were there before the papers were published. Now we're actually being ratified by YouTube. And they realize that they've made a mistake, that we were actually quoting things that were cutting edge at the cancer conference. So here's Dr. Sun Shang validating what we said about COVID causing cancer. Remember that 3 years ago when I was at the virus or the factory, the V factory in Johannesburg, in Cape Town? Remember how that was conspiracy theory? Here's him with that's his factory, right? He's the one saying that Nature is the most preeminent scientific magazine other than Science and Nature. And there he's saying that it's more, that COVID's causing cancer. He's saying it, not me. I'm just quoting him. He's saying he's going to go to AI, but he made his money on Abraxane, which was chemotherapy. That's why he's the richest doctor in the world. He didn't make it with predictive AI therapy. He made it with chemotherapy, right? That wasn't a brilliant therapy. That was just brute force and ignorance, right? This is why we go to the deep states investments. This is the same reason we went to In-Q-Tel investing in Blackberries and doing a backdoor in 25 years ago. We go to their investments in directed evolution. That's their strategy, directed evolution. We go to National Resilience. We go to Nano ADM. We go to Ology. We go to Alcom. We go to Nanotherapeutics. And we show it because nobody else will. That's their strategy, right? We go to their V factory because no one else will show it. Right? Everyone else is too busy being sycophants, lapping up their breadcrumbs because there's big money. There's Janice and her family, 3 generations of South Africans. We did 2 presentations there about AI that turned out to be correct. Anyway, I won't say Jensen Wang. Never mind. But there we're taking the AI to quantum trophies. This whole idea of shifting things from the AI domain into the quantum domain, modeling human systems first as the most important thing to model. The fact that you're modeling atoms, which are atoms. There's a 1-to-1 correlation between the thing that you're trying to model and the thing that you're modeling it with. Quantum computers are atoms. Superpositioning is how atoms are oriented in the world, right? It's the most efficient computing model possible, right? 1,000-to-1 to 1,000,000-to-1 benefit here, right? But somebody has to be the one who conceives it, and that's Neighborhood News and Health. Here's the big quote from Dvorak, right? Dvorak said, "Cancer is like a wound," and this is where Janice's comment, which is, it seems like my body was trying to heal a wound, like you would scab a wound, like my heel is trying to do right now, but it just never heals. It keeps, and I hope this isn't cancer on my foot, but it just seems like it never heals, right? It never gets the message to say, hey, we scabbed it over, the scab's done its job, because it's recruiting macrophages, it's recruiting blood, it's recruiting all these things that needed for healing, but then it never stops that process. She felt like the tumor had walled off the foreign agent in with the breast lumps, and so that kept it from going to the liver and kept it going to the pancreas and the other organs. That's partially, we analyze those feelings, that our folks have, or cancer patients. We had cancer stage 4 patients the other day here. We analyze it. We run it through ChatGPT 4, the latest model, and some of it's true and some of it's not. But it benefits everyone, right? The goal here is to teach cancer to tell itself to die. We've dealt with Scott Brilliant out of Tampa for 6 years now. And he's been the guy working, especially with juvenile cancer, on teaching cancer to tell itself to die. That's the long-term solution here. Cauterizing is going to be a stone knives and bear skins. It's going to look like bloodletting in 20 years. It's the state of the art today. Getting in the tumor before it's 2.5 centimeters, but it's not. It's going to look like bloodletting in 20 years. So that's the article, and that's why we have to always be kind of thinking strategically. And she does this in her paintings, which is this kind of thinking out there in the future, things that we can do today that get 1,000 to 1,000,000 to 1 return in her paintings. So anyway, yeah, we knock down the mass media narratives. That's what we do on a daily basis. Yeah, I'm not sure who the flip-flop is, but you're probably talking about Biden. Well, Biden was a shrewd politician, or you might be talking about Clinton. He was a shrewd politician. We don't have the luxury of flip-flopping. We don't have any money and resources, so we can't run 28 different simulations. We got to be right on, and if we make a mistake, we have to correct it quickly. Right? There's nothing wrong with correcting quickly. It's not a flip-flop when you're off center, when you're building a building and it's going to be 200 floors and you're off center by a tenth of an inch. It's not a flip-flop to correct it back to true square, right? You may be mistaking precision correction for flip-flopping, but they're different things. Bill Clinton is flip-flopping. Joe Biden is flip-flopping. Let's see. My data is part of the research. Will you help me with my lawsuit? You got to give me a little bit more of what you're trying to do. If you're trying to help Andy McCabe take away the U.S. Constitution, I probably won't help you with your research. But if you're doing something important in terms of making something that was stolen, that was in the public domain, and trying to privatize it like Aaron Schwartz was doing, I'll help you a lot. When he was, they had taken a whole bunch of scientific articles and then put them behind a paywall, if you remember, JSTOR, and then they murdered Aaron Schwartz because of that. So if you're doing something along those lines, I'll be helping you all day long. You'll get sick of me. When is there ever not a mass shooting? Yeah, there is a lot of mass formation psychosis. Let's see, UB40. UB40 is you smell so sweet. Could have been a candle. Whatever. I can't remember. Do anything that you wanted to. I can tell you the way to do the things you do. I can't remember any UB40 songs, so there you go. Sorry, I for some reason with the headphones on, I can't hear myself. I'm sure that's horribly off tune. Okay, we retrace the steps. Yeah, that was what, 9 years ago. Yeah. I think we saw, the first thing we saw was the place that they had the corner where they had the reenactment. We showed where all the police vehicles were, where NBC Channel 5, I think it was, filmed everything. And we showed that was 1 block away from where they said the police report said he got shot. And we found out it was later recreated. Now, why would you recreate a whole scene with blood and ambulances and everything if it wasn't a mass formation psychosis. Again, if you're not on site, you'd never know that. You just look at the picture and you go, oh, there's the scene where they cleaned up Seth Rich. You'd never know that unless you were there and talked to all the residents. So yes, thank you for reposting. 95% of your work is not seen from an armchair. Yeah. Today, sometimes you do end up having to do, when you can't walk, you do need to end up doing think work, but that's okay. Um, when I do get a chance to sit down, I do things like AI to quantum. I go back to all my notes of the quantum whisperer, and it's sort of like the Oracle at Delphi, giving you note cards, and I just try to interpret the note cards that the quantum whisperer gives me, and look for insights. And I think the big thing that is missing in quantum is the Leroy Hood of quantum. You need to have a reason and then invent the things you need along the way to get to your mission, not the other way around. You don't want to have a problem looking for a solution, right? That's how lasers didn't do anything for 60 years. They invented the laser and then they said, anybody got anything that we could do with this thing? When they first came out the laser, they said, this is pretty, but we don't have any applications. It took, there was a lot of applications in time, but what you really want to do is what Leroy Hood did and said, hey, wouldn't it be great if we could figure out the human genome and how these diseases morph over time so that we could intercept them? That's why he invented the gene sequencer, to do that faster, right? He wasn't driven by money. He wasn't driven by fame. He wasn't driven by anything other than, hey, we got to figure out which genes causes which disease. And when I met him in the early 90s, even before he had gone over to create the Institute for Systems Biology, when he was still at the University of Washington, I was a big fan, because he said, we want to use this to cause cancer. I'd had a good friend die at a very young age of cancer. And I said, this can't be allowed to continue. We can't we can't have a situation where people die of this. The guy was 42 that died, he was younger than that, actually. I think he was 39 when he died. Stomach cancer, colon cancer. Savannah Riverside's one of 4 author locations for mini nuclear reactors powering AI. Yeah, that's also the other thing. You could use these plutonium pits you could use the plutonium to drive AI data centers. They're probably worth more now than they were when we did the story in 2022, because people weren't talking about that at that time. So well, people are talking about my work with the Lighthouse Church in Santa Monica, and I don't think there's any attempt at deception there at all. I think that's a falsely placed accusation. The Lighthouse Church has been with James O'Keefe's group, and also, they were the handlers for Bobby Kennedy. This is his home office. I don't think there's any zero attempt at any kind of deceptions. The only thing we're trying to do, children's self-defense, isn't cancer a part of children's self-defense? Isn't that what these kids, they go off to the various St. Jude's and whatnot? I mean, again, I see all the effort is being for stage 4 cancers and giving kids different, toys or whatever for their stage 4 last couple of months of life. And I'd rather avoid all those kids going to St. Jude's. So I just think it's wise for us to put the effort in up front, because it's going to be the recipe for let's just call it the reduction, Operation Blackjack. The 4 sites are Paducah, which just got bought by Peter Thiel, if you remember. Idaho, INL lab. I visited that site in 2006. Idaho Falls. Savannah Riverside. I've been there so many times they call me Savvy, right? And Oak Ridge. Um, I've been there so many times they thought I was a member of the Oak Ridge Boys, right? So, and we've talked about Y12. I've talked to them. Just seems like zillions of people who work there. And these are going to be the places that are going to be the drivers for AI data centers as well. So that's what's coming, and also quantum. I started visiting there in '82 when they had the World's Fair there. That was my first trip to Oak Ridge. So I've been doing it a long time. Um, Aaron says no charge. We're still doing the kibbutz where everybody's part of the kibbutz. So the Super Jew has said he's underwriting another one. So there you go. There's the answer to that question. We're still doing the kibbutz style. I think that means you have to bring some chickpeas and some hummus, but we're still going to be, yeah, we're still doing the whole thing. We're still doing the dancing backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. You can see it now. A righteous sacrifice of your wealth. Yeah, I gave everything I had to this. I think this is it. I'm on my own now. That's why I went to paid. I mean, there's not another dollar of my own money that I can put into this. And it wasn't until I had exhausted all my money, $75,000 a year. COVID was a little worse, but on average, losing about $75,000 a year the last 10 years. And now I'm at zero. And that's why I went to all paid. And plus, I want telemetry on area nights trying to kill me, but that's what it was. We're going to do the Dream Cruise on Friday. Dave Underdown is the one who is the sponsor of this, because he believes that we can reawaken the creative energy of Detroit, the arsenal of democracy. And I agree with him that automotive is the first automotive and aviation, which most people don't understand the big background that Detroit has in aviation as well, with the Ford Tri-Motor and so forth. But these are the two places where AI is first used, and quantum will be first used. We've had the AI Whisperer up to Detroit many times. The Dream Cruise is to me, it's not about just looking at painted cars. It's about looking at that and saying Henry Ford was looking at a horse and said, "There's got to be a better way." Right. And so that's where we're at. Fort Stewart shooter is identified as a male Army sergeant. Yeah, if he's with, like this last one, I think it was the 2nd Armored and the 3rd Army Brigade, which rapid deployment. I think they were in the Marne, if you remember, in Sergeant York days. And wasn't Sergeant York from Tennessee or Kentucky? I can't remember which, but I thought he was with the 3rd. The Army of the Marne, and then they were in Sicily. I think they did Anzio and so forth. But it's one of the big deployment areas, but it's also part of FORSCOM, I believe, which is also DHS. If we have to attack deplorables, that's where it's going to come from. And so there's a lot of a U.S. Army male sergeant. We'll see. Again, if you're the guy driving the truck and you tell everybody, if you tell all your guys, we're surrounded, make a run for it, and they won't leave the truck. What do? You got to start shooting your weapon. So otherwise, Ardestani and Farahani don't get their 50 nuclear baseballs. We've said this again. We don't want to belabor the point, but when you have all these AI drones over New Jersey, doesn't that tell you there's loose nukes in New Jersey? I mean, just follow the metadata. Why are they looking there if there's no loose nukes there? All they need is a nuclear trigger to make their suitcase dream come true. We've been talking about this for 7 or 8 years now. Like I said, we interviewed the guy in Luna Pier. Aquaphor healing ointment. Oh, I'm going to get some of that. Thank you. And put socks. Oh, okay. When you go to bed, thank you. This has been pain. Like, oh my God, if I step on it, it's just like through the roof pain. Yeah. Thank you for all you do. One of my Cherokee friends, it looks like there. Just got here. Can you start over? Sure. I'm starting over right now. I can remember that. I'm not sure. I was when somebody locks the doors with a chain for your exit and then puts a key in the elevator so that you can't use the elevator. And then like two assassin guys show up on the elevator. Um, that's not good. So yeah, and Johnny, the comedian, came and got me out. They had pulled the chain off the thing, and I had gotten down the stairs, but he came with a bicycle chain. He's like, "Okay, we're gonna take him on." There was a Navy week at the Brooklyn Navy Week that week, so it was like, he's gonna run into all these Navy SEALs. He still came with his chain. He was ready to get me out. I really appreciated that. I didn't use black milk on the Rice Krispies. It was white milk. So um, it was white milk, but there's no message in that. Just I like my milk white. So um, from West Virginia, tell me more about my state. Oh, don't get me started with West Virginia. How many times have we gone to West Virginia? I think we had 4 or 5 different charrettes in West Virginia. We went to Clarksburg, where the CODIS for the talking about the National Identification Database for fingerprints and DNA. We had markers. We talked about short tandem repeats that came up in the Koberger case. We talked about ID Prism with Bob Malone, and just in Clarksburg, we have like 50 stories with Daryl Rickey. I went to Parkersburg with the FBI informant trying to, kind of lure me into an assassination there in Piketon. We went to the VA and talked about Senator Byrd using a lot of the VA patients for, let's just call them V experiments. So we've done a lot of stories in West Virginia. We went to Wheeling 3 or 4 times. Talked about, we stood right under the bridge, or on the bridge of Roebling, which was the first precursor bridge to the Brooklyn Bridge. Yeah, we've done a lot in West Virginia. Bring Barney Fife. Yeah, yeah. Cops. Uh, you know, you send out Barney Fife to stop the Ardestani and Farahani and 20 guys with AK-47s, right? To get the nuclear baseballs, and they send Barney Fife out there, one guy, doesn't even have a police dog, with one bullet in his gun, and then that's how these things run, right? Everybody else is out of the station that day. They're all playing a golf tournament. And Barney gets killed. Well, that's the end of that story. Thank you for sharing. Appreciate it. A bit worried when you get held at the docks. Well, I was at the docks. There was no turning. I was backed up against, in Brooklyn. So yeah, it was hairy. That was 8 or 9 years ago. Where did Rod disappear to? Well, he started working through his sister, Lisa Barsoomian. Remember, they did a live exercise, so he didn't go anywhere. He was just working through his sister. Twisted Sister, I think the band is named after Rod Rosenstein's sister, is it not? Is there a good Twisted Sister song that we should be playing to talk about Rod Rosenstein's sister? See, it's talking about going to the whiteboard and then being able to one day draw the line through these things that are eternal scientific truths, right? 100% sip for the big guy. Yes, and Scott. I hope Scott's doing better. And again, when you're talking about people over 60, 70% are going to be involved with a cancer diagnosis. If you talk about friends and family, it's 100%. that somebody you know or close family member will be diagnosed. So as far as people over 60, this is affecting 100% of the population. So you just forget all the people that you know that are over 60. Scott's just one of them. And this is like every person over 60 in the world, and a lot of people that are in their 30s and a lot of children in 30s and 40s that this affects. So again, this story will come and go. Fort Stewart will come and go. The story will come and go, and people will forget all about the nuclear pits. I guarantee you, they'll forget all about the Savannah River site. They'll forget all about who did it. 2 years from now, people ask, and then nobody will remember, right? We were putting our shekels into cancer. We were putting our shekels into AI. We were putting our shekels into quantum. That's why we've had the quantum whisperer. We're looking at things and ways of designing things in quantum that the quantum people need us. The quantum people don't seem to have a conceptual model for how to apply their technology to the most pressing issues of our time. They need us. And we're almost like, I don't know, want to say idiot savants. We don't know all their technology, but we certainly know what technology should be applied to. Let's see. Is it true? Stop digressing. Well, if you don't, here's the story. If you don't want us, leave. Right? If you don't like it, leave. Right? So that's how it works. If you want to be responsive to the folks that are here, you answer their questions, right? If you being an NSA or an MI6 troll, if I wasn't responding to the questions and just saying the going through, you'd say I wasn't responding to the questions. So it's either or. You would be lying either way, right? Well, in this case, I say, guess what? I'm not gonna really care what you have to say. So, well, we said it was Defense Threat Reduction Agency is the people who does these false flags. It's actually the Defense Threat Production Agency. We've been at Fort Belvoir since 2017 saying this. We say it's the Atlantic Council is the true decision makers, but the Defense Threat Production Agency who carries them out. Okay, unison smoking, new Olympic sport. Well, that's what it was that day. Let me tell you. Yeah, we covered this. The FBI sort of created. We went out to the headquarters of the Aryan Nation. We went out to the supposed headquarters that were burned down. It's a golf course. It's 2 golf courses. It's some of the most luxury real estate in America. So it was meant that day to try to stir up this idea of the Aryan Nation. They promoted it all day through 3 different press conferences. Then the next day they said, "Oh, we're not promoting that." Right? They promoted it the whole day of the shooting. Right? It's again to push this idea out that everybody in Idaho is a white supremacist. Therefore, you need tremendous amounts of cash be given to the FBI. When in actual fact, the FBI is in a look the other way partnership with the Aryan Knights in running drugs in the Aryan Circle out of Seattle. No connection, Scott. Well, the good news here is if you don't have a connection, I'm sorry, but you try to tune in next time. Turbo cancer, pure evil. Yeah, we didn't come up with the term turbo cancer. Howard Temin. Howard Temin is the name there. We sort of do quantum intelligence. Our brains are quantum computers. People just don't know that yet. But when they realize that our brains are quantum computers, there's a way to win over AI. As soon as they realize their brain's a quantum computer, all of a sudden it changes the game. So that's what we're all about. Reverse transcriptase is one of the things. We go to all the places that these trials are being held. We went to the Starlamab. We went to City of Hope. We go to all the places the trials are being held. Um, let's see. Cider and vinegar. I'll try vinegar. That sounds good. I don't have any cider. Cut heel on Amazon. You fed it to the horses. Okay, I'm going to try cut heel. Thank you. Oh, red wine. No wonder I forgot that song because I don't drink. So that UB40 had a song called Red Wine, and that probably was originally recorded by somebody else. I'm going to guess Bob Marley. Um, the Vape King was talking about my sandals. Okay. Well, you got to use specific pronouns and proper pronouns so I know what you're talking about. If you say he, she, them, it, universal pronouns, I only have a universe to boil to figure out what you're trying to tell me. So, Aaron Adler, would you have to know if Howard Temin is an actual Jew? Um, we did Birth of a Nation, Israel Birth of a Nation with the first foreign minister. We did the Shoah Foundation, A Thousand Voices of the Holocaust. We're going to Michigan to do with the Super Jew to do visioning and Idea Factory visioning for the future. We want a quantum company that's all owned by the founders, and we want it to be worth $1 trillion. And we're not asking for anybody to invest anything other than their time, right? So if we're asking for $0, how could that be a scam, right? Everybody says it's a scam. It's like we've asked for $0 with a potential $1 trillion valuation. I think it could be bigger. If you listen to Jensen Huang talk about it, he says quantum's going to be way bigger than. He caused the stock to drop 60% in one day because he said it wasn't going to be worth anything, and then they started a research center on quantum. I think he bought I think he bought an interest in all the companies when all their stock went down to 60%. I think if you don't invest now, the thing that quantum needs is a light, is a searchlight. Is the thing quantum needs is a goal, and we've certainly used cancer and the inflammation diseases and so forth, and we pointed it toward that goal. You're modeling atoms with atoms. What could be more one-to-one, right? They just don't understand that. They don't understand that the amino acids are the first things that we have to model, right? Everything's made out of the amino acids, the 20 building blocks, right? So, we've been doing protein bank for 30 years. Right, insulin and all the key proteins, the biological proteins, the heme, and all these things. We've been doing it for 30 years. It's obvious what quantum needs to focus on, but quantum is just going from pillar to post, trying to find the only thing I think quantum's really ever done is fingerprints in Clarksburg with the D-Wave computer. They're at D-Wave 3 or 4 or 5. And the only other thing they're working on is to crack iPhone passwords. But we can't even seem to publish the 800 messages sent for crooks. I don't even need the encrypted messages. Just give me the 800 messages over the 5 years and to and from. It's got to be national secret because they haven't put it out, right? That's got to be a Ukraine sniper program, just like Ryan Ruth has national security seals in his case. That's going to trial. It couldn't have a national security seal unless there was a national security program that was being protected. It's Ukrainian sniper recruiting, BlackRock. People say, well, BlackRock wants to buy every farm. BlackRock wants to buy every house. BlackRock wants to buy they don't have to have every house. If I'm caching weapons, I don't need every house on the block. If I'm caching weapons, I don't need every farm in a state. I need a lot of them, right? But I don't need every one. Honey is a wonderful healing agent. I think I'm going to go with vinegar. For some reason, that sounds good, and I'm going to go for cut heel on Amazon. But that does sound good. Thank you for the good afternoon. I'm sorry I'm so disheveled this morning, but I just, if I take one step and I accidentally touch my heel, it feels like somebody just tried to drive a spike through my heel. So the loftiest pumpkin. V is, that's not the V I was thinking of. I was thinking of a different V, but it does also begin with a V. The vaping experiments also do begin with a V. AI breaks encryption and crypto goes to zero in one day. Yeah. Well, I think they moved to a different encryption. See, the plan isn't to move everybody to crypto and then devaluate the dollar. The plan is to move everybody to crypto. Then the insiders move to their coin, which I always thought was going to be Ethereum because they worked with their Russian hackers. But it could be some other, the Waves coin out of Malta, was their coin, the Atlantic Council's coin. I thought, okay, when they move their money to Joseph Mifsud and Timofey's Waves coin, we identified a couple of other folks. But when they move to that, that's when encryption is going to get broken for Bitcoin. And you're right, when they break encryption for Bitcoin, it's worthless, and it devalues in one day. Now, I think they're going to transition it over, and there are going to be rumors of breaking the encryption, and then so people will start moving it over to Waves. They'll start moving it over to Ethereum gradually. It'll go to Malta, et cetera, because it won't be traceable, by the SEC. And so some of it, because they don't, it's kind of like collapsing. You can't do a building 7 and have it free fall. You can't have the economy free fall and do a building 7. You have to do kind of a gradual pancaking, slow motion pancaking of the economy. But I do think that's in the future. And D-Wave will be the one to do it, by the way. Fasting and eliminates senescent cells, metabolically active. Yeah, I agree. Keto, 1 meal a day. I pretty much do keto 1 meal a day. Yes, there was a fireman witness, but they sent him off to, I was, trying to get to him, but they sent him off to Colorado to heal and do rehabilitation. I think it's, I'm not kidding. I think it's well, they say it may be in Denver, but I think it's actually in Colorado Springs, so they can keep an eye on him. Armed Diplomatic Security Services can keep an eye on him. Hi, George. Thanks very much. This is why the dogs are so important. People say, "Oh, you're leveraging." Oh, Kevin Timmer's so smart. He's got all these super dogs. Task Force was so smart. They had all this training in the super dogs. It's not the super dogs in and of themselves. It's we want to model the olfactory bulb in dogs. It's 40 times more. It's 40 times larger than humans by proportion, but it's also a trillion to 1 sensitivity. Its sensitivity is 3 to 6 orders of magnitude more sensitive than human sensitivity. If you're going to model something after nature, don't pick the human olfactory bulb. Pick the dog's olfactory bulb, which is 3 to 6 orders of magnitude more sensitive. If you're going to model vision, don't take my eyes where I'm blind. I'm essentially it's like Paradise Lost here, Paradise Found. I feel like I'm dictating now. I can barely see, right? But you don't model my vision. You model an eagle's vision, right? You don't model my sense of smell. You model the dogs. You don't model my hearing. You model a bat hearing, or etc. You get the idea. Dave says red wine was Neil Diamond. See why I'm so bad at this? I wish I was a drinker. I would have known that. Um, I bring up Savannah and look what happens. This happened 3 weeks ago, where I was talking about moving nuclear material and the nuclear triggers in Savannah, Riverside. We talked all about this with the guy that we met and interviewed in Luna Pier, who worked on the convoys and so forth, and his shoot to kill. He worked for DHS and the FBI, etc. Hope wound healing can be pain free. Yes. Pain free as possible. I think this is just flat out George stupidly climbing hills and going to where Travis Decker would be riding his motorcycle for escape with his California sandals. I think it's I should have learned from Jesus. Jesus would take his sandals off when he went in the hills, right? It's because the joke is that's where Jesus left his sandals. I should have listened to Jesus. Did they move the U.S. sniper recruiting once Wellen got arrested? No, I mean, Pittsburgh was certainly a spot where they were recruiting. They're doing it through sheriffs who've worked with DHS before. Tony Guy had worked with state police, motorcades, and so forth, and did a lot of presidential details and so forth. And the snipers were working there. I mean, it's like, doesn't that sound like it was right out of the special forces that shot Kennedy? Everybody in the motorcycle thing was a part of the Cuba, invasion. That thing that Ruby was running, the special forces. What was it? The 112 intelligence division. I can't remember what it was that was run out of. All half the cops were on the list to go help be trainers down at Lake Pontchartrain in New Orleans for weekend warrior school. We have existing quantum antivirus companies. Yeah, I think they're all wrong with the encrypting everything. I think it's a misuse of the technology where we should be in the human space. I think it's a huge misuse of quantum technology. Thank you. Appreciate it. Turmeric paste. I'll try it. Garlic. Clean the wound first. Oh my God, that's going to hurt. Ooh, turmeric sounds good though. With a dog, yeah. You learn a lot walking though, and looking. If I had a dog, if Task Force was still alive, we would already have the puppy farm. We would already have, 500 the best noses in the world. But that dream ended in 2018. Post-scarcity, singularity. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree that this will be used for the next round of crypto, and all the existing crypto will be zero overnight. I believe that. It won't happen. They'll pancake it. There won't be all building 7 dropping at the speed of gravity, but it'll be pancake. Better move the money. Okay, they didn't move it. Pancake it again, pancake it again, pancake it again until they get down to zero. Rumor: Bill Barr is committed Robert Mueller when he started forgetting Bible verses. Well, he certainly had enough pasta when he went to Italy with Durham. How many trips did they take? We said it was Timofeev. We said Joseph Mifsud worked for Italian intelligence. We said it was Pietro Benassi about 1 million times. We said he worked for Giuseppe Benassi, who set up the Link University School. We said it about 1 million times. We said Timofeev had a OSCE BlackBerry. We said it about 1 million times, and they can't figure it out. With hundreds of researchers and investigators that went with that different congressional trips, they couldn't figure that out. That's why I'm going over the old videos. It's all right there in the videos. Hundreds and hundreds of now, What they did find was there was a huge spike in pasta consumption. We said it was Forte de Marmi. We said it was right next to Deripaska's mansion. We said it was right next to Zelensky's mansion, right next to Kolomoisky's mansion. We said it was Forte de Marmi. We said right where to go. They never found it, but they did hit every pasta restaurant in Rome. Breaking 256 encryption. Yeah, that's the plan. The only way you can compete with a narrative is actually come up with truth. There's so much money put into the false narratives, billions upon billions. The only way we can compete, which is 6 to 1 force multiplier, 6 orders of magnitude, is truth. Truth is incredible in terms of force multiplication. Yada flops. Yeah, we've done a lot of yada flops. Not like Bill Clinton, not like Bill Barr, but we know what yada flops are for. Humans living better lives, not for enrichment. Mercurochrome is very good. Iodine, maybe iodine. Oh, that sounds good. Iodine and mercurochrome for cleaning the wound sounds good. And then like put a sock on it with like some cut heal. All right. Julius Caesar, son of Cleo, little son of Cleo. Okay. All right, we're going to leave it right there. Thanks for joining me. I really appreciate everyone. I know hot takes are fun, but it's more important to have the slow bakes for long-term preservance of the preservation of the human race, as well as our constitutional ideas that we hold clear. Slow bakes are the way to go. Hot takes, it's great to have hot takes prove out what you said in the slow bake, but hot takes, you can burn your mouth, and then it kind of, the only thing you have is that poor taste in your mouth, right? You're burned, that when you put that hot apple pie in your mouth when it's scorching hot, and then you can't smell or taste anymore. What good is a hot take, really, right? And that's all news is lately. Essential oil, clove essential oil. I'll give it a try. Thank you. Don't fail me now. I won't fail you now. Great stuff. Thank you so much for joining. You can see it's out there. We chart a course for the future of quantum. We teach cancer to die all by itself. That's the best way to stop cancer, right? And we talk about some things we're partially right about, some of the folks that come up with, diagnosing their cancer, and then we come up with the things that still remain to be figured out. So there you go. Glad you're sipping again. Yeah. We talked about this yesterday with Elon Musk and the Cyclops computer, the hundreds of thousands of AI and the 200,000s. Without the quantum computer, the initiation, the Cyclops doesn't know where to go and what to do. And in this world, the two-eyed monster is king over the one-eyed monsters, right? Cyclops may be an incredible one-eyed monster, but it's still the two-eyed monsters with the quantum computers that are ruling the day, aren't they? We want to keep it that way. Thank you very much for joining. MIC, see you real soon. KEY, why? Because gosh darn it, we like you. MOUSE. Thanks for joining.